Hey, beautiful souls. Welcome back to Who's Sitting at Your Table. This is the podcast where we honor women carrying invisible loads with grace and grit and a whole lot of strength than the world can ever see. These two queens who have lived through a story that so many midlife women like me and the rest of you have quietly navigated through. Sisters Stephanie and Elena, welcome to the table. You women have built a career. You've cared for aging parents. You hold your entire family together and still had the rug pulled out from underneath you guys, right? Or at least from the story I've heard from both of you, it's like it seems like you guys have had the rug kind of pulled over from under you. You had so much to deal with life, with family. Being a midlifer myself, am actually going through that with my mom. So I'm, going to be moving closer to my mom here. I'm in escrow with a home that I'm buying in the same city my mom lives in. And hopefully when she's ready, she can move in with me. Anyways, so let's check in. How are you guys doing today?
I just saw my sister close her eyes. My standard answer lately, actually the last 4 years to that question. And I always say, I'm living the dream. Not my dream, but maybe somebody else's dream, but it definitely was not my dream. I'll tell
I was
you
going to
that.
say, how are you really feeling?
And there you have it. The last 4 years has definitely been a roller coaster. If you want to take it down to like a specific amount of time, I mean, things started happening back in 2016, but the last 4 years have been, a physical, emotional, every kind of thing you can think of. It's just been one thing after another. And these were life-changing events for both of us.
Okay, let's start from the beginning. Let's just get into it. All right. So, questions. Tell us about growing up in Concord and what was home like for the two of you when you were younger.
You want to take that one, Elena? Sure. Life was good. I mean, it's funny because the house that we grew up in, we just sold it for them last year, lived in it since I was 6 years old. It was like Mayberry, and it still is to this day. Like, we lived in a court and we roller skated out in the front and we played until all hours. And we had a pool in the backyard. Everybody hung out at our house. It was fun. My parents were great. My dad worked nights, my mom worked days. So during the week, it was kind of a different balance of things. But I mean, life was good. We went to private school, had great parents, had a great life. Looking back now, I feel bad for the kids that are being raised today. I'm like, wow, they're missing out on all the fun stuff that we actually did when we were little. But we had a really good life growing up.
I'm glad you brought that up because I was going to ask you, like, what kind of examples did your parents set, and how did their work ethic shape you guys? I know you in previous discussions, both parents were very hardworking parents. Tell us a little bit about that.
They both owned their own businesses. So my dad worked 6 days a week, 12 hours a day. My mom worked 5 days a week, but they worked really hard and they never took sick days. They were both self-employed. So it was really pull yourself up by your bootstraps. And, everything my parents always taught us was do the right thing, whatever that is. Like, whatever the right thing is, you do it. Like, if it's work, you go to work, you show up, you give 100% of everything. If it's letting somebody cut in front of you in line, you do that. Whatever it is, if the cashier gave you too much change, go back and give it to him. You always do the right thing. It was instilled in us in a very young age to always do the right thing. And, I think that carried us through our whole lives because my parents were always really good examples of that. And
Yeah.
I know that many times in our life they did without to help us and to help others. Always like that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Stephanie, you and I worked together for a couple of years at least. I was there at
Mhm.
Live Action for almost 3 years, and you were always very loyal and solid. You did it right. You were honest. And I think that was kind of very similar to what Elena explained about how your parents are. You both built long careers, decades long. So tell us, what did work mean to you before everything shifted?
Well, for me, like you said, we worked at the same company for about 2.5 years, you and I, but I had been there for 23 years, going through
Yeah.
rebrands, going through acquisitions. I had been there 23 years and I loved my job. I wasn't sure when I first started there back in 1999 because it was a very small startup, which was a new environment for me. And I remember my dad calling me on the phone the first day during my lunch asking me, "How's the new job? Do you like it?" And I was like, "Yeah, everybody's really nice, but I don't know if it's for me, so I think I'll wait out the holidays and then start looking for something else in the new year. Well, that never happened because within 3 or 4 months, I felt like I had found my niche, working for we were Wild Packets at the time. It was a very small, close-knit group, and it was like a family unit, and it grew into something bigger, and I will always be grateful for the experience and the privilege to see that process happen and take shape over the time that I was there. I met some really great people. I had some really great mentors there, and it was just a really good environment. And I changed positions throughout my tenure there. And my last 8 years there was in post sales account management, customer success, renewals. And I felt like that was my career passion. I really enjoyed working with people, working with customers, helping them with their issues, letting them know that they could trust me and that they were always going to get an honest answer from me, whether it worked in their favor or the company's favor. They were always going to get an honest answer from me. And I would pull the right group of people together internally to help a customer. It didn't matter how big or small the problem was. Didn't matter how big or small the customer was. Every customer was important to me. And I just really loved that interaction and that path that I took. And, my job meant everything to me. And I didn't realize until after I was laid off that my identity was really, really, really wrapped up in my job. I mean, I put in a lot of time. I put in a lot of hours. I was available after hours on weekends for customers. They had my cell phone number. And so when that was gone, the first month I was like, I can breathe. I don't have to worry about what's going on at XYZ company or if it's getting fixed because it's not my problem anymore. But then as it started taking
Sure.
me longer and longer to find a job, I just did not know what to do with myself. And I still don't. I still am like, what is this next chapter going to bring? And what am I going to do professionally to, make myself feel fulfilled, because my job was such a huge part of my life that it's just been feel like I'm stranded on a desert island by myself right now, when it comes to the career path. But I really enjoyed my job. I really loved it. I loved the people I worked with. I loved the customers I worked with. And it was a really great experience. I mean, for the amount of time that I was
You
there.
strike me, Stephanie. Stephanie, sorry to cut you off, but you strike me as a person that, since I've known you, connection, for
Mhm.
me, connection is my love language. And it sounds like
Yes,
that's the same thing for you, right?
it is.
Connecting with people. And also not just the connection part, but like helping people, guiding
It is.
people. Yeah. So when you're that type of person and you don't have that anymore, I can see that whole desert island description that
Yeah.
you just gave,
Yeah.
right? Yeah. Yeah.
I feel
Yeah.
like, feel like Tom Hanks did in that movie with the ball that he named
Yes,
Wilson.
yes. Yeah, yeah,
That's kinda how
Wilson,
I
yeah.
feel. It's like, there are days where I am up on the computer looking for a job religiously, and there are days where I just want to pull the covers back over my head and not get out of bed. And it's a roller coaster, and I don't know if my sister feels the same way. We talk about it sometimes, but we were raised by the same 2 parents, but we have different outtakes on things. And there are just days where I just wanna give up, but I know I can't.
Yeah, yeah. Elena, what are your thoughts around the same topic that we just addressed?
Well, I worked for the same company for 20 years. I lived in a bubble thinking, well, I'm a good employee. I've put years into this company. The last 4 years I was there, I didn't even take a sick day. I mean, I just was so focused on if you give 110%, the company appreciates that. And, that means something. And so everything I did, I had no idea that, you're just kind of a number and, you're just an
Yeah,
employee number in the big scheme of things, especially working for a ginormous telecommunications company. I mean, it's all about the bottom line, which I understand. Being in business is all about the bottom line. But I was just so blindsided that it could happen to me because I'm like, but I've been here for 20 plus years. I was going to retire and then telling us, well, you don't get severance if you don't train your replacement. That was another thing. And you really get cut down to size. But I was so oblivious to the outside world as well that I almost didn't file for unemployment because I'm like, I'm going to have another job in a week. I've been a project manager for 16 years. That means something. Okay, that means jack. It means nothing. Project managers are like a dime a dozen. They're everywhere and they're the first people cut and nobody cares. And, I spent so many years not only building up my skills within the company. Built up all of my soft skills that everybody always says that are important, like your communication skills and, your loyalty and reliability and interpersonal skills and my management skills and all those things. And now in this day and age, they don't matter. Nobody gives a crap. They want to know what platforms what can you do, what can you sit in the chair and do right now. It's just such a different ball game, and still trying to understand that and get used to that whole different way and direction that things have taken is just crazy. And then trying to balance what we've done the last 4 years as well. I mean, it's just
I did an interview, field CISO, a woman for a local reseller in the Bay Area, and she did an amazing podcast around women in AI. And AI is where it's at right now. And
Mhm.
there are many courses that you can take right now to get on board with AI. I'm just thinking we were talking about how when things happen to pivot, we have to pivot. Strong women like us, when stuff happens, okay, what's next? Where can I pivot? What is, if we're in tech, where is leading right now? And right now it's AI. I'm taking courses right now. My company that I work for has given us, courses and training, but on top of that, on the side, I'm taking a small little app. I'm taking courses on AI, learning more around AI because I want to stay valid. I want to stay ahead of the curve. I don't know if you guys ever thought about taking a look into that. You guys are women in tech, and it's hard when you're going through what you're going through to be able to like shift and pivot like that because not only did you have the rug pull out from under you and you lost your jobs, you guys went right into caregiving, right? Your father, you lost your father, and that was like a really tell us. Let's talk a little bit about that because that happened very quickly and right around the time you both lost your jobs, right? And then you did the natural thing was all right. I know my value. I'm good at my career. I'll get a job, but right now the most important thing is family. And so you guys had to dive into caregiving. And I know Elena, you kind of sort of it wasn't like you stepped in and say, "Hey, I'm going to be the caregiver," but it was sort of like it just got placed onto your lap, and you were there to take care of your father. Well, when you could, you were there just to be there in the last moments and spent some time. And I know Stephanie, you were still kind of working at that time, correct?
Yeah. I was still, yeah, because our father passed in 2021 and I was still working.
You were
So a
still
lot of,
working, and then
yeah.
Elena, yeah,
And the
Elena, you
brunt of
spent
it,
more time with your father.
yeah, she did. Cause yeah, she was able to. So,
Yeah, tell us a little bit about that, Elena. What was that like for you? Those moments?
well, I got laid off in March of 2021. And like I said, I thought, oh, I'd have a job within, a couple weeks.
Of course.
Wow. So when that didn't pan out right away, I started looking around like, okay, what is it that I want to do? Let me look and see and take some courses and see if there's a different direction because I really kind of in hindsight realized I was coming out of a company that kind of was a dying industry as it was. It's kind of, it's going by way. So I'm like, you need to figure out where you're going to go. Well, as I was taking courses and stuff, my mom, who was still working a couple days a week, she's like, because my dad had had a stroke in 2016 and he was starting to have some memory issues. And she said, hey, can you come over on the days that I'm working a couple days a week and just make sure he gets lunch and hang out? And my dad and I were super close. We were like two
Mhm.
peas in a pod. So I would just come over a couple hours, 5, 6 hours a day, and we'd hang out in the backyard and we'd have lunch and we'd sit and listen to music. I mean, it was really more of not so much caregiving, it was more just hanging out and being
Hang out with
pals.
dad, yeah,
Yeah.
that those
I
are
mean, it was just
precious
that
moments,
I'd
yeah.
put on music, we'd sit out in the backyard, he loved his yard, we'd sit out in the backyard and have lunch, and I mean, that was the extent of it. It wasn't until October of that year that we realized something was going on, and we found out and we were really blindsided that he had mouth cancer, which was shocking. No cancer in any side of our family. He's as healthy as can be, and so my husband ended up quitting his job to help me take care of my dad the last, like, 6 weeks.
Wow,
And he went through some treatment that was supposed to give us another year or so, and that didn't happen. So literally we found out in like October and he was gone December 30th. I mean, it was that
wow,
quick. I mean, it was
yeah.
just shocking. And I mean, I still don't think I've ever really processed that last 2 months because everything happened so fast. I was watching something this weekend about cancer, and I was like, And it was like 4 seasons, the show, and when the person passed away at the end, it didn't dawn on me that, here I was watching this show, and the person was gonna die because most people that deal with cancer, there's a long process involved of, like, and it was so quick, and everything happened so quick with my dad that we didn't go through what most people go through, which I'm very thankful for. But he passed away very quickly, and it was within 48 hours of him passing away that my sister and I realized, what in the hell is wrong with our mom? Why is she acting so weird? I mean, she's always been a little weird, acting strange. Why is she on repeat? What's going on? And within 48 hours of my dad's death, we realized, holy shit, she has dementia or Alzheimer's. And it was in that moment, I mean, so much happened in a span of like 3 days. It was just, it was coming at every direction. It was just crazy,
Yeah.
crazy.
That's a lot because you're carrying a lot of emotional weight.
But we had noticed when my dad was sick that her behavior was weird. She was just really checked out. And, when my sister and I were over there, she wouldn't even come upstairs. We'd be the ones upstairs with him. She would just sit downstairs and watch TV and make excuses as to why she couldn't come upstairs and help us or whatever. But it was just very odd because, they were married almost 60 years. And so for her to be so checked out, we just were like, what is going on with her? This is not like her. Because if this had happened 10 years earlier, she would have taken the bull by the horns and been his primary care person. There would have been no bones about it, but it was just so odd. And it was, like my sister said, within a few days of him passing, because we were able to focus on her now, we were able to see these little idiosyncrasies in her personality and her behavior. And, our dad's mother had Alzheimer's. So I started remembering some of the signs and symptoms and I was like, oh no. And then when we got the diagnosis, there's really not a diagnosis for Alzheimer's, but according to what the doctor said, what was that, like in May or June of that year, Elena, 2022?
Yeah.
Yeah. We got
That took her, yeah.
Yeah, we got the diagnosis that that was the path that she was going down. So many things made sense. So many things made sense from even a few years before, like her radical changes in her behavior and stuff. And, we had chalked some of that up to menopause, but the woman went through menopause for 30 years. So it's like,
Oh my God, she's still getting nice splits.
yes.
Sorry.
I mean, but it's like what was hormonal and what was not, and now we know, and it makes sense. It doesn't make it any easier to digest, but it makes sense now, But I mean, for me, I was still reeling from my dad's diagnosis when he passed, so it was like there was no time to really truly understand the diagnosis, and then all of a sudden, bam, he's gone, and it was that, and then right after that, we're on to our mom, so. It'll be 4 years in December that he's been gone, and I don't think that I have still properly grieved his passing because there's just been so much going on besides stress of losing our jobs, helping with our mom. Then once we got our mom settled in assisted living, it was get the house that we grew up cleaned out, and that took 5 months, and then get the house ready for sale, which took another couple of months, and then having the house emptied and staged and everything took another few months. So something that we thought was only going to take 3 or 4 months ended up taking almost 9 months to complete. And it's like,
Do you wanna talk a little bit about that? Yeah,
yeah,
do you wanna talk a little bit about that how that process for those that are listening, maybe going through that, what is it like in terms of, like, I guess you guys had to hire somebody came in for the estate sales? Kinda talk about that process, about
yeah.
that, yeah.
So
It took us months.
go ahead.
Oh, go ahead.
No,
Well,
you go ahead.
it took us months to go through it before we could have the estate sale company come in. I mean, we realized once we started going through the house, and this was our childhood home too. My mom had strategically covered up that she was a shopaholic hoarder, but she
Wow.
was a hoarder of brand new items. There was just bins to the ceiling and stuff everywhere. So trying to
And it was
go through
organized? It was
everything,
organized?
it was so
Very,
organized. It was,
very
and you
organized.
didn't know it. I mean, it was just insane.
'Cause
She wouldn't buy
you
one
see the
something.
movies, you see the shows, right, that with people, and then you could just tell that they're hoarding, but you didn't know your mom had that because she
No,
was a
she
well-organized
had it
hoarder.
all
Wow,
strategically packed in closets and drawers and layers of closets. Like we'd get into the closet
wow.
and there'd be a first layer, and then we'd see there's another layer of stuff and whatnot. And but yeah,
She
I
didn't
mean,
buy one of something, she bought 5 of something.
mhm.
Wow.
Yeah, I remember
But
specifically years ago. I remember years ago, my dad and I were watching a football game on a Sunday. I'd come over to watch it with him, and she had gone to TJ Maxx to buy a couple of throw pillows for the new couch. I am not kidding you when I say she came home with 15 throw pillows, the same exact ones, but she was going to use 3 on the couch, and she had the other 12 as backups so that when those pillows got ratty, she could replace them. And
Wow.
those 12 pillows were
Planning
still
ahead.
wrapped in it. We found them still wrapped in a TJ Maxx bag when we were cleaning out the house. And I mean, this was probably 10 or 12 years ago when they did the remodel. So I mean, that's her mentality of how she bought. But her mother, our grandmother, was a hoarder. So I don't know if you're genetically predisposed or not, but my grandmother couldn't buy just one of something either. She would buy 10 of
It's like a
something.
learned thing, right? She
It
learned it.
almost
She
is,
learned it
and
from
I
her.
get my I
Yeah.
get my grandmother's behavior because she was from that Depression era, when things were very, very bleak and tight and finances were not good. And, my grandmother grew up pretty poor. So I can understand her thought process. She didn't ever want to run out of anything. But our mom's process was just, we were shocked. We were really shocked. I mean, we knew there was some stuff, but we didn't
You
know the
find her
extent of it.
little organized, closet or rooms or whatever full of very organized. What was it like? I would imagine you guys must have got a lot of money back from, all that, the estate sale.
No,
How'd that go?
let me just tell you right now, for anybody that's watching this, your kids don't want your stuff. Nobody wants it, and it'll end up in a landfill. I mean, literally, we were oblivious to that because we thought, oh my gosh, she's got beautiful stuff. She's got Lennox china. She's got this. I mean, back in our parents' day, people entertained. You had big parties. Our house was always where all the big holidays were. And because we had a big backyard and the pool, all the kids were there. So my mom had all the stuff for entertaining. She had like 40 sets of dishes. I mean, everything had a theme. But when we did the estate sale, it took them 2 weeks to prep the house because she had so much stuff. And that was after Steph and I spent months going through and getting rid of the junk and stuff that couldn't be sold. But nobody nowadays, we're smart. We meet our friends. We go to a restaurant. We don't cook and clean. So we had all this beautiful china and stuff that we thought, oh, people will want it. Nobody wanted it. It was
That's
like
crazy.
we ended up making a little bit more than what we spent. So we had the estate sale. They were awesome. We made some money. And then what's left, which was still almost a full house full of stuff. And they even had the estate sale an extra day because they had so many people coming through. And we had 2 days where we let people come back and just literally take what they wanted, like take it.
Wow.
Then from there, we spent almost everything we earned from the estate sale paying a junk hauler to haul off the rest. I mean,
Oh
that's
my
how much
God.
stuff was left. Nobody wants, it might have sentimental value to Steph and I, or, oh yeah, we use these plates, but nobody else wants it. And even a lot of thrift stores don't want it. It was just
That's
what you think you're
incredible.
going to get, you're not going to, you don't,
So the
Yeah.
thrift stores wouldn't even take it? That's just makes
we
gosh.
did do some, we donated some to a thrift store that runs a cat rescue and things like that. But even then, you have to load all that stuff up
Yep.
and truck
And
it
take it.
down. I mean, it's a lot. Yeah.
So how much time
Yeah.
do they give you a time limit when you have to have it out of the house and the estate sale done, and then you have to
No.
clean the house because you're trying to sell it, right? So
Yeah, because no, because we knew our realtor had sold our grandfather's house, so she knew, and she actually had hooked us up with the estate sale company.
got it.
So I mean, the quicker the better because we needed to get it fixed up and put on the market. But we got it cleaned out, and which was kind of therapeutic for us to clean it out and kind of go through it, but get that and then get it fixed up and get it on the market. And even still, we had some cosmetic stuff done to it, but they hadn't done a lot of repairs and stuff in 15, 20 years at least. So it still took like 2 months to sell.
Mhm. But then let me just point something out about the estate sale process.
Mhm.
Elena and I were in for a big surprise because 3 estate sale companies passed on us. They said, your stuff we can't sell.
Why?
It's
Yeah.
not trending right. It's
Okay.
not trending right
So
now.
they're being particular. Oh my
They
God.
are, and being honest. They're being honest, saying, I don't think we can sell this stuff, the furniture and stuff. And, like Elena said, mom had a lot of entertaining things. Our grandmother used to sell Princess House. So there was a ton of Princess House crystal in the house. And there was just a ton of stuff. Like she did have 40 sets of plates, but that also meant she had 40 sets of placemats and 40 sets of napkin rings and 40 sets of silverware. There was so
Wow.
much silverware in the house we didn't even know. And the fourth estate sale company that came through, we were laying odds. How quick is he going to pass on us? And he comes downstairs and he goes, yeah, I think my wife and I can help you out. And we're like, oh, thank you, Jesus, because we didn't know what we were going to do. If we had to do it ourselves, there's no way we could have done any kind of a garage sale or estate sale ourselves. But
Do you wanna shout
We
out who they were and so people know who they
They were
are locally?
Horizon Estate Sales, and they were awesome. It's a husband and wife team.
Amazing.
They were really great, and they told us they used more price stickers from my parents' estate sale than they had ever used. And, one of the things too is it's not customary for the homeowners or the family to be around while they're prepping for the estate sale or while there's people there for the actual estate sale. With Elena and I out of work, we offered to help them because we knew that there was so much stuff, and we let them know that we would not be emotional about anything. We've already taken the few things we wanted, and the rest of it is just not stuff we're interested in. And they didn't take us up right away, and then a few days later they called and said, yeah, we could use your help, because they had just him and her and then one guy that was handling the outside stuff. So we came over and took direction, and at one point the wife had said, oh, I found some things that you guys might want, and they were like childhood drawings and stuff. Elena and I looked at them, we just threw them in the trash. And she goes, okay, so you're not emotionally attached. And we weren't. By that point, we were just at the point where we
Right.
just wanted to get this process done and completed. And then they, when the estate sale was going on, we weren't there. But then the owner called me on a Sunday and said, we want to run it another day, and we'd like you and Elena to be there because we're going to have kind of a name your price day. And we just want to make sure you're okay with the prices that we're getting for this stuff. And so we went, and that was an eye-opening experience too, because these people are like vultures. The people that come,
Oh, wow.
they're people that own businesses that are going to resell
Those
it
are
and
the ones that
everything.
don't wanna. Yeah, exactly. Those are the
You
ones that
know,
wanna get a deal.
Yeah, and
Yeah,
they'll lie to your face
yeah.
too, because the owner told me one lady was a seller, and she lied to my face, said, "Oh, I'm not gonna be reselling this," and then she told him a few minutes later, "Well, this is for my business." So it's like they just sit there and they just, they don't tell you the truth. And
That's
then,
awful.
like Lena said, we had a
It's
big
hard because of given the fact that the circumstances, it's like it feels so dirty, you know?
it does feel a little grimy, but we were just
Mhm.
really happy to get stuff moving, and we were kind of
So
focused on the
so
end
now you
game, which
guys
was to get the
had
house ready.
yeah, so now you got the estate sale, out of the way. You got the house cleaned up. You had to you fix up some parts of the home to be able to get it prepared for selling. I think we talked about it, Stephanie. You talked about maybe a family bought the home, but what was that? Did that feel emotional to you when you saw your childhood home being sold?
So hard. It was so
Yeah.
hard. And Steph and I were over there still taking care of the house when it was on the market for 2 months, filling the pool and stuff. And my mom was running out of funds quickly. So Steph and I were doing a lot of stuff by ourselves that we could do for free. Like, we realized after 6 weeks on the market, we're like, okay, nobody's buying it. What can we do? We looked in the backyard. We're like, okay, the trees need to be trimmed. Can't afford it. What can we do? I went on YouTube, looked at some videos, ordered some tree trimming stuff from Amazon. And Steph and I were out in the backyard and taught ourselves how to trim all the big trees and climbing up and breaking down branches and doing everything. Anything that we could do that didn't cost anything that we could do ourselves. God bless YouTube. I mean, we did it.
Yeah, I know. YouTube has
Yeah, but it was really hard letting go of the house. Personally, I wanted to use a chainsaw for the trees, and I got vetoed. Like, we could use
Yeah,
a
we didn't want you
chainsaw. It's
killing
like
we
it's like
yeah, we don't need you killing any yeah,
yeah.
that's dangerous, man. That's so dangerous.
So, but it was, and
We
it
just
was
wanna get
really,
through
I
it all.
mean, we met we met the couple that bought the house. They were expecting a baby a few months later, and we were
Oh,
like, this is ideal. This is an ideal home for a family with children because it's got a nice big backyard. It's in a cul-de-sac, and it's time for somebody else to make memories in this house. And we understood that with our
yeah.
heads. But let me tell you something. The last day that we drove out of that court and in our rearview mirror, we saw the house. I mean, it was rough. I mean, I still think about it because one of the things that always happened when we would leave the house is our dad would come out onto the front porch and watch us leave, and he'd wave, but he also was watching to make sure that our brake lights were working. He wanted to make sure that our brake lights were always working, and to know
Safety
that
first.
when we drove out of that court the last time, it was like, this is the last time. And, even though he hasn't been here for a couple of years, this is really the end, and it was rough. And I mean, I remember going home that day and just kind of crawling up on my bed in a ball and just kind of having a little therapeutic cry and stuff. And Elena and I didn't talk for a couple of days. And then when we came back, we both realized we ended up having the same experience that day. And
Yeah.
It was rough. And again, like I said, I just don't think that either of us have really had full amount of time to really grieve what has happened. I mean, we went from these really vivacious parents that were traveling and doing and living their best life to, a father who had a stroke and then a few years later had cancer, and then our mom had Alzheimer's, and she changed very quickly. I mean, we can see the downhill progress on a pretty steady basis right now, and it's heartbreaking. It's really heartbreaking.
And your mom is, she's good doing good now? You guys have her in an assisted living place? Yeah.
Yeah. And when my dad first passed away, my mom was very social and she was a hairdresser. She loved to talk. Hairdressing for her was her whole identity. She loved it. She didn't look at it as a job. She enjoyed going to work every day. That's why at 80 years old, she was still going to work because she loved it. It was like being with her friends. And the first year after my dad passed away, she wouldn't leave the house. She like sat on the couch every day and I went over and took care of her and she would sit in her nappy old robe and just kind of watch TV and talk on loop with the same stories. And that's when it really started hitting home that, okay, she's got Alzheimer's because she would just tell the same thing over and over and over. So the first year, it was just the house of sad because she wouldn't leave and we just sat there. And then she kind of started coming back to life a little bit year two. And then she decided, okay, now I'm ready to kind of get rid of the house. It was too much house. It was too big. She was worried about falling. And so we picked a place for her that is amazing. Carlton in Pleasant Hill, amazing place, tons of activities and life. And it's a senior living community. And then it also has a side for Alzheimer's care. And we picked that one because there were so many activities where she is going to love this now that she's back in the land of the living and interacting with people and like seeing her friends and stuff. She's going to love living here. And there's activities on the hour, there's outings, there's all kinds of stuff. And we got her in there and she didn't want any of it. She just likes to sit in her apartment and watch TV and go down to the restaurant for her meals and that's it. And it's kind of crazy to see that change in her too, in that she used to just love interacting and love being with people. And now she's just sits there and stares at the TV.
Do you
So,
think, because obviously it must be scary, think about, like, your memory isn't there, and then you
yeah,
see all these people, they're all considered strangers constantly, right? Even though she's met them once, it's Groundhog Day all over again,
right.
right?
And part of it too is where she lives, it's senior living. So there's completely normal able-bodied people that live there also. Just people that, didn't want to live in a big house anymore and gave up that so they could just basically live and be taken care of. Because it is like living in a hotel. It's great. They clean your place. They do everything. It's a great place to be. But when I would sit with her during meals and stuff, and she would sit down and people would sit next to her and they'd start talking. And you could kind of see they'd start talking to her for a minute or two. And then when she started repeating herself, they would realize, oh, okay, there's something wrong. And you could kind of see them kind of back away and shut down the conversation. And it's heartbreaking because it's like, okay, I understand. Oh, no, unless this is your family member, most normal people don't know how to deal with that. And they're like, what's wrong with her? And just repeating the same things over and over and can't really engage in conversation. So,
Yeah.
but she's
It
happy as
is.
can be. And she tells us stories about how she works there and how they have her on staff and they have her cleaning stuff and doing stuff. I'm like, all right, there you go. You know,
Yeah.
how she helped redecorate after the remodel. There was no remodel, but yeah,
Well,
she's like,
it sounds like she's doing
also that
great.
apparently they've hired her to show apartments to the new people that want to move in there and stuff. I'm like, okay.
Your mom recognizes you guys still when you come
Yeah,
in, though?
yeah.
Oh,
Yeah,
that's
yeah, yeah.
good.
Totally.
She recognizes is that we're supposed to be there, but she doesn't always understand that we're her daughters because she'll ask us.
It's true.
She'll ask
Oh,
us if
interesting.
we're her sisters, and we'll be like, no, we are. Elena and I are sisters, but you're our mother. We're your daughters. I'm your mother. So she doesn't understand the family dynamic anymore, but she knows that we're supposed to be there, and she definitely knows who we are. And ever so often she'll shout out our names, but I noticed over the last year or so she really kind of relies on calling us honey and sweetheart because I think she forgets our names sometimes. But like I took her to get her nails done this week and she kept asking me if I was older than her. Are you older or am I older? And I'm like, no, you're my mom. I'm your mom? Yeah. And I was like, why? And she goes, I thought we went to high school together. So she
Wow.
doesn't completely, she knows we're familiar to her because we see her 2 times a week and we talk to her and we sit when we're there for like 2 or 3 hours, but it's not always clear to her who we are to her. So
Yeah.
that's the part of the Alzheimer's that's starting to, that's the road we're starting to go down.
And you guys have some familiarity on this because your grandmother had it, right? You
Hmm.
said?
Yeah,
You guys were
my
much
dad's,
younger. Your dad's mom.
I was much younger. I mean, I was like in my early 20s, so I didn't quite
yeah,
understand.
I was too.
My dad would go over there and help take care of
Your
her,
your
though.
yeah,
Yeah, so
your mother and your father were probably more engaged in that, and now it's
they
your
were.
turn as we have to do it
Yeah.
for our parents when
Yeah,
our
there
parents
was a
need us.
buffer with our
Uh,
grandmother. We would go over and visit her and stuff, and she got to the point where she didn't have her, she wasn't able to speak anymore, and then it got to the point where she wasn't mobile anymore. My grandfather did a lot of the heavy lifting, and then, he had some help, but my parents really did, help him the most. And so we were buffered basically. So we knew some
yeah,
of it because
exactly.
I think I was like 23 or 24. Elena was in her late teens, early 20s, and then she was diagnosed in the 80s and she passed in 92, I think. So yeah, she had about an 8-year battle up with it. And, you know, she was still our grandmother. We loved her, but, we had some history with it. We knew that it was a brain, and we knew that it would cause memory loss, and I think we were somewhat prepared for that. But just watching my mom go through these ups and downs, these little different stages of the disease and the way it progresses. Some days it's entertaining and my sister and I get a good laugh, and other days it's really heartbreaking.
Yeah, and it's hard. It's gotta be very emotional, and you 2 are each other's support system through this.
Well, and my
You 2.
mother-in-law had this also, and I helped take
Oh,
care of
wow.
her. My sister-in-law moved my mother-in-law in with her for 7 years, her and her husband, and they took care of her. And, when things got a lot harder, I was in a position where I could help take care of her one day a week. So she would come and hang out with me. And so I kind of knew what I was in for and I knew what to expect. But it's funny because there's so many different variations of it. My mother-in-law loved to just sit in front of the TV and watch the Nickelodeon channel and was just glued to cartoons, was just as placid as can be. My mom, on the other hand, she's into everything. She talks incessantly, like story after story, and half of it's crazy. And
Yeah,
they're very different. And I can tell my
yeah.
sister and I know she's probably going to be one of those that gets combative later on and will have to be. I mean, I
I
can
heard
see
about
that
that. I
coming.
heard that they could be mean, right? I
Yeah.
Yeah,
heard that
she,
the
mhm,
disease
yeah,
can cause you to be mean and
yeah, they can
And
get
she's
very
nasty.
combative.
My mom has always been one of those people that nothing is ever her fault and she's never wrong, right? So that's just her. That's how it's been. That's the way it is. That is one of those traits that has carried over into the Alzheimer's. And one of her things is she loves drumstick ice cream. So I have to buy 4 boxes at a time and fill her freezer. And we see her on the camera. She'll eat like 3 a day, right? So I'm constantly buying them and she'll say stuff. I'll be like, "Oh, you're out of ice cream." Well, the little kids that they come over and eat it. I don't eat them. Or I have the girls over and I'll find her remote over on her sink wrapped in a drumstick wrapper. Well, the cleaning people, they did that. I didn't do it. Okay, girl. It's like I saw you in the camera, but it's one of those things where it's never her fault. But
Yeah.
that's one of her traits that carried on.
Wow.
That has,
And
How do
so
she,
you
kind of
how do
and
you
she,
deal with that? How do you deal
let
with
me
that
tell you,
emotionally? Go ahead,
I was
Stephanie.
just
Go
I
gonna
ahead.
say,
nod a lot. I mean,
yeah,
you just don't engage them. I mean, what's in her brain and what she thinks is true. It's like there's no point. Like if she
Yeah, that's
says that
you
she
can't argue.
couldn't do,
You can't argue
yeah,
with them. It doesn't make
yeah,
any
it's
sense.
like okay,
Yeah.
like
They would never understand that.
no,
Yeah.
no, and it just and you can yeah, and you can tell, like, if you do try to correct her or call it out on it, you can see the confusion in the eyes and the face, right? And it's like, "Why
There's no
bother?"
need. There's no need to argue. I'm more asking the question to both of you guys because this is a lot, right? You've been through your grandmother's, your mother-in-law, your grandmother, now your mom. What do you do to fill yourself back up? I mean, because that's emotionally a very I know you make humor. There's a lot of humor in it, and humor is good for you, but what do you guys do to get through this and get kind of stay on the healthy mindset because that is really difficult. I know you guys are there for each other and you guys can lean on each other, but what else do you do to get you through when you know what I mean, when you're trying to get this is like a season right now for you guys of going through this with your mom, right? How do you get through this season? What do you do to make yourself better, feel better?
I pray a lot. Vodka and prayer, basically. No, I
Wait, hold
do.
on a second. Who said vodka?
Elena,
Of course,
The same
Elena.
one that we could bring mimosas to this.
So
I
Stephanie
I
prays. Elena
I
does
pray a
does the
lot.
vodka.
Well, I'm gonna have to jump on the vodka bandwagon too. Not every day, but every so often. You need a good.
Take the edge off.
You need something to take the edge off. But I just tell myself this week I had 2 days with my mom back to back, and Elena was not there. And we are a good buffer for each other when we go together. And I realize when one of us is not there, it's a lot. And when it's 2 days back to back, I mean, I was there Tuesday at her place, and then Wednesday we went and got our nails done and had lunch. And by the time I got home, I was just spent. Oh, and I feel really bad feeling that way after spending 2 days with my mom. But it was like I could not handle any more jibber jabber. I couldn't handle any more stories. I was just done, after 3.5 hours one day and 4 almost 5 hours the next day. I was just like, ugh, I need to take a breath. And I feel horrible thinking it that way because I know at some point she's not going to have a voice and we're going to miss hearing her voice. But when it's just on
Yeah.
loop and she's constantly asking the same questions over and over again, and you don't have that buffer, it's hard. But so I'm grateful for my sister and I'm grateful that we're doing this together. And,
Yeah.
I just have to tell myself and I just have to have faith that things are going to work out the way that they're supposed to. And we know the end
You
result
two
with
are so
Alzheimer's.
very strong. You guys know that, right? You guys are so
No,
strong.
not. This is you hit me. You got me on a good day. I don't let it happen very often, but ever so often I have to have like a mini
No,
meltdown
but just because
just to
you
release some
cry
of the
when you melt
pressure.
down and cry is healthy though, Stephanie, right? Because
Yeah, it
you
is.
rightfully are going through a lot. Both are. Um, I mean, and you guys do it with sense of humor, right? And you have to do that to keep yourself. I mean, I could just totally see you two writing a book about this. You know what I mean? With humor. I could
See,
totally see you guys.
for me, I just each day, especially leaving with her, I'm always kind of thinking ahead because taking care of her when she was in the house for 2 years, the things that I would walk into, and I was always trying to stay one step ahead of what I would walk into, and overflowed toilets and trying to find stuff and trying to keep up with the mind of somebody who has Alzheimer's is very hard. So for me, I'm constantly like, okay, this is a long road still ahead of us because we don't know how long. This time last year, when we were getting ready for Christmas, I was like, she might not even be verbal next year. I don't think she'll be going out. And here we are. I mean, I did not expect her to still be as functioning as she is because she's had this at least 6 years. But I just look at this as, okay, you've got to keep going because this could be another year. It could be another 2 years. And then I'm also always thinking of whenever I'm there, I'm always looking around and seeing, okay, what did she do this week? What do I need to fix? How do I get ahead of what crazy thing she's going to do next? Like she kept putting the remote for the TV in different places and we couldn't figure out where it was. And so she'd just sit in silence for the day and not watch TV or just lay in bed. So I'm like,
Wow.
okay, how do I counteract that? Okay, we need to connect. I need to get something to connect the remote to the table so she can't lose it. Okay, she can't remember. Now this week she couldn't remember which button it was to turn it on the remote. Okay, let me get a glow in the dark pen and color that in. I mean, I'm constantly, for me, with her, it's like a job. I'm trying to constantly stay one step ahead of her. So, I mean, it is what it is. It's
Hmm.
sad. I'm sure down the line, I'll probably stop and process these last 4 years. But for me, I'm just constantly, okay, she's still functioning and she still needs to be taken care of because there is still stuff that we have to take care of, even though she's living in a place where they take care of, the main outside needs. It's up to us to do everything else and to try to make her life and her day-to-day life that she's functioning and she's still living it to the best that she can. So I just kind of view it as a job.
Yeah. It's
Doesn't pay much except for
no. It's
laundry.
caregiving leadership is what that is. It's caregiving leadership, right? Long-term loyalty is superpower. You
Yeah,
guys learn that superpower of loyalty through your family, your parents,
it
right?
is. I mean, that's
It
it.
is.
It is taking what they instilled in us that you don't give up. You keep moving forward and you keep, I made a commitment and I did make a commitment to my dad right before he passed away that I would always take care of my mom and that he could let go and leave. And that is the one thing too that I have to adhere to. I made that promise and I will keep doing that. And even though some days are sucky and Other days are funny, and her newest thing, she has to wear all of her keys. They wear their key on a little stretchy thing.
Mhm.
I made her like 10 when she moved in, and, she's only down to 3. Well, she has to wear them all at one time, right? All and then we go out to go to lunch. So I don't know if you remember, did you ever watch that show One Day at a Time growing up with Valerie Bertinelli?
Yes, yes,
Okay.
yes.
So remember the maintenance guy that lived there, Schneider, that had all the keys. So now I'm
Yes,
like,
yes.
okay, Schneider, let's go. And she's got all of her keys. I'm like, let's go. You just gotta find humor in it.
You
Yeah.
And
have
it's
to.
some days the stuff she says is crazy and not true. And you're like, okay. And then other days I'm sitting there and she's telling me, who was I married to? And I'm like, Dad, you guys were married, almost 60 years. She goes, no, I was married to somebody else for a short time before that. And I'm just like, and she was married to my dad at 18. So in the back of my mind, I'm like, is this one of her batshit crazy things? Or I'm like, and the first thing I came home, I told my husband, and he same thing as me. And he's like, holy crap, that could be true. You never know because some of the stuff she says that we always thought was nuts. Now down the line, we're like, oh, she was right. So it's like, is that my real daddy? Or that kind of crazy stuff.
Yeah,
So, and
silly.
that's the kind of stuff that you laugh at, and it kind of gets
You
you through
have to.
the other
Yes.
stuff.
That's why I'm telling you guys should do a blog or you guys should do
Mm.
something where you could, because there are people in your shoes right now. And I mean, you guys make me laugh. Make me laugh so
You
hard.
have to.
And
You have
you,
to.
but you're so good at it. You know what I mean? During the raw time, the struggle you're going through, all of
This
it,
one,
the job
this is our
loss,
dad's
all of it.
side. This is our
Yeah.
dad's
Yeah.
side of us. He made
The
light
humor.
and of everything and was always funny and laid back, and everybody loved him. And you just do. What else are you going to do? Because you've got to get up every day and you've got to keep moving forward. Got to keep looking for jobs. Got to make sure that she's taken care of. Got to still have a life and a sense of normalcy, on the weekend and have something to look forward to. I mean, it's all these different pieces. And I mean, no matter how bad and how crappy it is for us some days, there are a whole lot of people that have it a lot worse. Guy was telling her, I'm in a couple of groups on Reddit of people that have been laid off for months, people that have mortgages and kids and things like that. And, when I read through some of their posts and you just feel the desperation of, I am on the verge of losing everything and I have a family. It's like, we're not there. We have a lot of things that are not going right now, but we have a lot of things that are okay. And we're still in a lot better situation than a lot of other people,
One of the things I like to I'm very big about, Stephanie, you know me, I'm always big about mindset, right? What kind of little things it may sound kind of cheesy or whatnot, but truly it is your mindset is becomes whatever outcome happens in your day, right? If you're feeling like shit and you're talking shit to yourself, your day is going to be shit. If
Mhm.
you're struggling and you have a lot going on, and I've been through some stuff, I've been through some tragedies in my life. And I sometimes tell myself, "Wow, how did you get through that?" But it's your mindset and your belief system. And so I always say this, but I freaking write in a gratitude book every freaking day. I've been writing in a gratitude book. I started doing 10 gratitudes a day in the very beginning so I could keep a consistency. But then now I do 3 gratitudes in the morning and then I write magic at night. And so I wake up to gratitude, and magic is what happened throughout that day that I can say was magic to me, that was good, something positive that I can hold on to. So I can go to bed with that in my mind. So that helps me with my mindset to stay in gratitude, to stay more present, even during the worst of times. I force myself to find magic no matter what. It could be I saw a ladybug that flew on my window, to I saw this elderly couple holding hands and just it's precious, or hey, a bird landed on the windowsill and it was just such a pretty bird, or anything to just bring light to say this is a positive thing, right? If I stay consistent on my gratitudes, my mindset will stay positive. And I really truly believe when you are riding the storm that you guys are riding in, and if you're able to like stay on a consistent mindset, even on the hardest of times, you could focus on better where you need to focus, right? And you guys are really working towards, whatever small wins you can get every day, right? Um, I'm just very impressed with your humor that you guys are going through all this. I love that humor mindset. Whenever something gets me really upset, I'll put music on because music can totally shift the way you feel, right? I don't want to be sad. I'm going to play something happy because I'm sad right now. I'm going to play something. Maybe it's an older song from the past and good memories come up. And so it shifts my mindset. How do I get to that mindset? So I love your humor mindset, and I'm not walking in your shoes, and I'm not going to pretend to say, hey, you need to do this because I'm not a therapist. But I can say I've been through tragedy of loss of death, but of family members that were murdered. I've been through a situation where I was sexually assaulted. I've been through multiple job losses. Being a single mom in the Bay Area. If I didn't stay in a mindset that I required to stay in, I would not find the next door to open, right? So I'm very proud of you guys. I love your sense of humor. You guys make me laugh, and I just want you guys to find that door. You guys are so deserving of that next door. And what is that door, right? What is that door that you guys deserve to open?
Oh, are you asking the question?
I don't know, but they say if the door
No,
doesn't open, you got to kick it
I
open.
just wanted to shut up for a little bit to let you guys talk because I was going deep, but I really adore you guys and you guys deserve the very best. You are such good siblings to each other, good children of your parents. You've been through so much, you deserve so much more. So
It's
that's
hard to look ahead sometimes because of what that next thing or what it's gonna be, because a year ago, if you would have told me I was still gonna be out of a job a year later,
Mhm,
I'm now 4 years without a job. And the first couple were because I was taking care of my mom and,
mhm.
then we were cleaning out the house. But now here we are, a year and a half after that, still no job. And, some days you wake up and it's like, okay, so the only thing that I am qualified to do is bathe my mom and listen to her stories, and that's it. I mean, it's hard to sometimes look ahead because I'm like, I would have never in a million years thought that I would still be out of a job now, that I would still be on this hamster wheel of taking care of my mom and still going through this. I mean, I would have thought, okay, I did everything right. We did everything right. Like we were raised, you do everything right, good things will happen. We did
Mhm.
everything we were supposed to.
Yeah.
We followed through on everything. We took care of her. We put our lives on hold. We did everything. Okay, so things should be starting to play out, and they're not. Nothing's happening. The job market
You guys have
sucks
been
right
through
now.
so hard, but you've been through yeah, the job market does
It's
kinda stink, right?
horrible. Absolutely
And you've
horrible.
been through so much, and so it's hard. It's like you're treading water and
We
you're
just keep
trying to
getting kicked when we're down. It's like,
Yeah.
and I learned not to say what else can happen, because I'll tell you what, every freaking time something bad worse happens. And
Yeah.
I can't do any more of the what now, because every day I'm just like, you just got to keep going, get up, keep going. I pray every morning. I especially on the days I'm with my mom, pray for patience and that. But it's,
Stephanie, you should be
something
a
has,
stand-up comedian is what you should be.
I've been told that my whole life. I've been told that my whole life.
And you should be her manager.
Yeah, I could do that.
You 2 need to do stand-up comedy and have a team, seriously.
But I mean, you just have to. I don't even know what's next, because, my husband's been towing the line here, while I try to find something. And I mean, I'm at the point where we talked about this before. I'm just applying to crappy call center jobs. I was in project management and I had a great job with a great salary for years. And now I'm like, I will do literally anything. And the amount of scam jobs out there now is, if you don't know how to read into things, you are in big trouble. And I've read, like, again, on a lot of job boards, these poor people that are just so desperate, they gave away all their information and everything else, didn't realize it's hard out there. And trying to keep going forward and take care of my mom and then find a job at this stage in our life and just find something that'll bring in income, it sucks. And I think if I sat too long and really thought about it, I'd probably have like a total meltdown. But I'm like, there'll be time for that later on. But for now, you just got to keep going. Like the song
Uh-huh.
says, getting back up is the only backup plan you need. So just keep going.
Yeah. I
I'd
agree.
love to, like, meet with you guys in person, offline, and talk about, like, creativity, like, ideas and you know what I mean? I always believe that there's something for you guys. You guys are smart, intelligent, strong, powerful, loving, kind, loyal women. Sometimes when you're in the thick of it, you can't see what the next door is, and maybe, like, somebody from another, that's outside of the situation, can just brainstorm with you on ideas, and you might be able to say, "Oh, wow, I didn't think about that," right? Sometimes you need like somebody else to kind of like say, "Oh, what about this? Or what about that?" You don't know those options. But when you're in it, it's hard to see that door, to
Hmm.
open, you know?
It is.
So,
What stinks is that you would think that our experience would help us, but our age and everything else is the biggest downfall. And the lousy thing is, these companies want young kids, the super tech young kids. And it's like, you guys are missing the boat. You should be looking at us. We show up. We're on time. We are low maintenance. We're not drama. Hey, guess what? I don't have kids. That ship has sailed. So I don't need sick days to go home and take care of my kids. I don't need, I got to get up and leave work now because, I got to go to a school program or this. I mean, we are there to work. We know what it's like, especially to be out of a job. So we know even more so now the importance of being there and showing up. But we actually want to work. We want to be there. And it's like, we're your target audience, guys. And, instead of the young fly by night people that are, leaving jobs after a year, hey, train us. We'll be there. We're still going to be there a year from now and 2 years and 3 years. And I don't know why the market has totally shifted toward the younger generation where it's like, we're your dependable workaholic people that will be there that will help run your companies for you.
well, I would love to brainstorm with you guys because I think that maybe that is not the direction you should go. Maybe there's some other direction you guys should go. And there is a job out there, but what is that job? Because the tech industry right now is AI first. AI is what's happening. Generation AI is when you're talking technology, that's kind of where you guys should be focusing if you want to get into technology. There's many courses that you can take online. My understanding is my friend just found out Harvard's giving free courses right now too,
Well, Coursera
right?
has a ton. I've taken all the
Yes.
free courses
Okay.
on Coursera, and then
Okay.
Coursera also has blocks where you can take, IBM has a block,
Mhm.
AI course.
Mhm.
Google has one, and I think one other company, and there's other ones. The thing is, you have to kind of narrow down what your scope is, and I haven't quite
Mhm.
figured that out because
Yeah.
you take and a lot of the blocks of classes are really geared toward people on the back end for engineering, which
Mhm.
that stuff makes no sense to me at all. So I would never even go down that road. I'm not that kind of tech wizard. But
Mhm.
getting just kind of my foot in the door of the understanding of AI, the free courses were great, but I didn't want to make the leap to invest in classes yet until I could figure out, okay, what's going to be the bang for my buck? What are these companies looking for as far as AI knowledge? And then you've got here Meta, they just actually laid off their entire AI staff because
Mhm.
AI took it over. It's like, oh,
Mhm.
okay, hello. This is,
Mhm.
does nobody realize what's going to happen down the line ahead of us?
Well,
So,
I mentioned earlier I had a field CISO lady talk about how women should really embrace AI and how to protect yourself from it as well. You guys should listen to that podcast. She talks about how you prompt AI and you could actually use AI to help you focus where you should be looking, based on the prompt engineering that you give it. It will guide you to where you should focus. You could ask the simplest questions, more direct, and prompt it exactly how you want to get your answer from it. And you could continually fine tune it until you get your final answer. I use it a lot. I use it daily. I use it to help me with events. I use it for to help me with gathering information, how to fine tune the information. It's my personal assistant, essentially, is what my AI is. But listen to that podcast, and then I would love to like kind of brainstorm with you guys. We could just do a brainstorm if you're open to it and talking about like a direction because I think you guys you're too creative, you're too funny, you're smart and intelligent, and I can see how you feel the way you feel. I get that, why you're frustrated. But sometimes coming from maybe me and maybe a couple other people that like you might have brainstormed with other friends. If you haven't, brainstorm with them. I think it's you get ideas from people that care and want to help support you, and especially people that really know you well. I don't know how you guys feel about that, but I think brainstorming. What are your
Hmm.
thoughts about roundtable? Yeah.
I'm down.
Yeah.
At this point, I'm open to just about anything. I mean, it sure couldn't, it couldn't hurt. That's for sure. But the one thing I
Yeah.
will
Yeah.
mention about the market today with it in jobs is that everything is very specialized. Like, I couldn't just go in and get a job with a healthcare organization because they require 3 to 5 years of healthcare experience, healthcare industry experience. I'm not even going to look at my resume because even though I've worked with healthcare companies in my job, the fact that I wasn't in a healthcare organization, they're not even going to look at the AI. Their ATS is going to boot my resume because of that. So every industry is very niched right now. I mean, they just really want people that have industry experience, no matter what the industry is. They want a bachelor's or equivalent. I've run into a couple companies that, only will hire people with bachelor's degrees. Leaves me out because I don't have one. But honestly, I don't understand what good a piece of paper from the 1980s is when it's 2025 and I have all this experience. That blows my mind that they're going to miss out on a whole group of people because of something as frivolous as that. I mean, I can understand maybe the newer generation that's coming into the market, they want to see that because it shows that they were able to commit to 4 years of education. But somebody at this point in my life, I don't understand why it matters.
Yes. I mean, again, I'm gonna reiterate, I know you guys have been through a storm. You're going through it. I think each storm, when your dad passed, that was a storm. And then you're dealing with the estate and the selling of your mom's house and identifying that, hey, my mom has Alzheimer's, and then getting her to assisted living home. The cute thing about this your mother is she's kind of owning that. She's owning her little space there. She's like, she's like became this individual, like I'm helping organize, or I don't even know, like if all of it's true and she's making it up or if it's really true. But
No, she's making it up. No, she
She's
never leaves
making
her
it up.
apartment.
Yeah, it's
That's
not
what's
true.
funny.
That's what's
oh,
funny.
that's
None of
hilarious.
it's true. Yeah,
None of
that's
it's
why.
true.
Yeah,
Okay,
none of
got
it.
it. Got it.
That's why. Yes,
That's
but
funny.
she spins these stories and embellishes so well that a stranger would believe her. You know,
Yeah. Yeah.
a
Like I
stranger would
believed
totally
it at
believe what
first.
she's
You're
saying. When she
yeah.
came up with the
But
story that they remodeled and they needed her to help with the decorating, the place has not been remodeled and they didn't ask her to help decorate. But one thing that
think about this.
one thing about that I will say about the Carlton where she is, when we were moving my mom in almost 2 years ago, the director of the facility was talking with me. And I was telling her how she just comes up with these crazy stories and she's rewriting our childhood and blah and all this stuff. And she's like, you know what, honey? She goes, it is not worth it to argue with her because in her mind, that is her truth. And you know what? At this point, you need to just let her live her truth. And I was like, that is so much easier said than done. But now that it's been almost 2 years, I realize I just have to get over it and I just have to let her spin her stories. And we know they're not truth. But I know that also too with Alzheimer's, there's always like a small grain or kernel of truth that they build the story around because they can't remember all the details. So when my sister told me that my mom said that she had been married before, I was like, huh, that might explain a lot. I mean, it was just one of those things that it's like, where did
You
she
have to add
come
humor
up
to
with
it.
that? Where did she come up with
But
that?
think about this. Think about this though, Stephanie and Elena. If these stories that she's making up make her happy,
Oh,
Yeah,
exactly.
that's all
exactly.
that matters. Again,
That's really
mindset,
all that matters.
right? Back to
Yeah,
mindset.
it is.
And that is right there a win for you guys if you look at it that way.
She's
Mom
totally
is,
happy in her crazy mind and
yes,
she thinks and she's content and thinks she's doing all
exactly.
that. I'm like,
Good,
Yeah,
what
good,
impressive.
right? Let
yeah.
her live that truth.
I still think I could be prom queen one day.
Well,
There's a
I
chance.
tell I tell you, I love your sense of humor, guys. Uh, and I just want to, as we wrap up this podcast, I always like to ask who inspired you and would you say, first of all, somebody that you could say is like a celebrity or somebody that may be passed away or somebody that is in your life today, who would you say individually, both of you, tell me who your queens or kings sitting at your table. Who wants to go first?
Anyway,
Okay, you go.
Mine is Dolly Parton. I love her.
Yeah, and Dolly Parton.
I love Dolly. I just think that she's always stayed true to herself. I think what she's done in her life and what she's achieved, not the fame, but what she's done and given back to her community, and she never forgot where she's from. But, I think too, for a long time, people didn't take her seriously. They kind of thought she was a joke, and she embraced it and was like, you know what, if that's what you think, that's fine. She just got out, did her thing, did what she loved, made a life and a name and a career, and then used it to build libraries and give back to rural communities and do all that. And I love it. I love it. It's like, okay, people can kick you and say things about you or not believe in you or not think you have talent or you're true or you're authentic. And you know what? Tell them to suck it. Just do your own thing and keep moving
Yeah,
forward and
she
do.
is. In her interviews, she is just so authentic,
Yeah.
real, kind, and her mindset, she's so healthy mindset. She has
Yeah.
such a healthy mindset for
Just
even the
very,
things that she's been through a lot
just
herself, you
staying
know?
positive too. Just staying positive and just laughing and letting things roll off her back and just be
Mhm.
like, think what you think. I'm still going to be me. And here I am.
And don't let her kindness fool you because she is strong, you know,
Yeah.
right? She's a strong
She
woman.
didn't get that
Yeah.
way from having no backbone. You know
Yeah.
that behind closed
Yeah.
doors, she's a very smart, very
Don't
business
mess
savvy
don't me
woman
mess don't miss up my kindness for what do they say? Don't what's that saying?
for
Weakness.
weakness.
Weakness, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
You
don't
know
miss
she's strong and you know she's got a huge hand in her career and how she got to where she is. And you know she's feisty and behind closed doors, don't mess with her. She may be sweet, but girlfriend's got grit. So,
And so who, from that's not a celebrity, would you say is at your table?
I would say my parents, through the good and the bad and everything. I mean, they raised us right. They were amazing people. I still say my dad's the best man I ever met. Second is my husband. But I mean, they worked hard. They did everything right. And
That's
both of them,
beautiful. I
because,
love it.
I'm half of, them, half of each of
Yeah,
them. So,
yeah, totally. What about you, Stephanie?
For a celebrity, it's funny that you asked. I would think I just read something recently about Elizabeth Taylor, and she got a bad rap for having, been married 8 times or yeah, 8 times to 7 different men, and she was a child actress and whatnot, and she had her battles with alcohol and drug addiction and stuff. But, I when I was reading this, I was reminded back, in the '80s and stuff, she was one of the first celebrities to stand up, for her good friend Rock Hudson, who was diagnosed with AIDS. And she built
Yeah,
a platform around that. She used her celebrity for good, and she put her money where her mouth was. She started the perfume company, and every penny from her perfume company was donated to AIDS research. And she just really kind of lived her life without any rules, no matter how many times, like Dolly Parton, no matter how many times she was knocked down, she got back up on that horse, literally. I mean, the thing that started her drug addiction was an injury when she was in National Velvet when she was like 12 or 13. She got bucked off a horse. So, I mean,
mm,
she literally got knocked off a horse and just kept going in her life, going, going, going. First marriage didn't work. Well, let's try it again. I mean, she just never gave up. She
can't blame
just,
her for trying. Yeah,
nope,
she just kept going.
she never gave up. And I think as she got older, she just became very comfortable in her own skin and realized, she was okay alone, and didn't have to give marriage that next shot. But, if she had, so what? It's her life, and if she had been a man, there would be no quabbles about how many times he was married, They
Yeah.
just made a big deal of it because she was female, and she just didn't let that stop her.
And back in her era and time, it was, like, kind of taboo to
It
divorce and all that too,
was.
right?
It was
So,
very
yeah.
taboo. I mean, she stole her best friend's husband, and married him. So, I mean, seriously, I mean, it's like she was not always ethical, but she definitely had a moral compass. And I think with age, we do become wiser. And I think that happens with even celebrities. So
What
I
ab
would have to say
what
her.
about, what about somebody that you know that's personally, that's living or or past,
You
individual that
know,
you know personally, not a celebrity?
I'm torn. I mean, I have a good core group of 3 girlfriends that I've known since I was 12 years old, and they are
Well,
my
they could all
conscience.
be at your table. Yeah, they could
Yeah.
all be at your table, right?
They've always been there for me, and we've been there for each other through ups and downs in lives, through marriages, through children being born, through divorces, through deaths, whatnot. And we each bring something to the table in this friendship, and we've all been friends since we were about 12 years old. And I don't know a lot of people who still have friends in their lives from their childhood. I mean, it's a very special thing to have a friendship of, you know, 45, 46 years, and I treasure it. And so I love them with all my heart, and they are my favorite people on the planet next to my sister. And so, I would have to say Michelle, Cheryl, and Cindy at this point, and thankfully they're all living. But I also would like to see my grandparents at that table, both sets, because they made our parents, and they both were in that same age range where they were born in the early 1900s and survived the Depression. and saw a lot, and they were all very good, hardworking, God-fearing people. And our parents wouldn't be who they were and they are without their parents. And so we just come from really good stock. We just come from hardworking people, kind of salt of the earth.
Yeah.
Both of our sets of grandparents, were from the Midwest and the South. And, they were just good people, and I respect them and I love them and I miss
Well,
them very much.
you have a lovely table. I love your
Yes, I
table.
do. Yeah. And if I had one of the sets of my mom's dishes, I'd be setting the table with that.
I love it. Did you
Imagine
guys
if, like,
take any pictures of it? Did you guys take any pictures of all that?
probably have pictures somewhere in all the archives that we took of all the different things. But I mean, she even had dishes for Valentine's Day. I mean, she was crazy when it came to stuff like that. But that was part
Well,
of our
that's
childhood.
special,
We
though.
thought it was
And
normal.
that's special. Yeah.
It is
Yeah,
special.
that's special.
So, in fact,
Yeah, yeah.
one of my good friends that would be sitting at my table, Michelle, when we were cleaning out the house, she came over and she took some dishes and she took some Easter decorations. And when Roberto and I went to their house for Easter this last year, it was so sweet to see my mom's bunny rabbits sitting there on the table. And,
Yeah.
she took an old card table, which used to be the kid table at holidays, and to see her grandchildren sitting there eating at that table that's like 50 years old, it warmed my heart.
Yeah. Special. That it's a legacy that's continuing.
It is.
Yeah, awesome. Awesome. That's wonderful. Stephanie, Elena, thank you both for being here.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah,
Yeah,
no,
thank
thank you
you.
for sharing your truth, your vulnerability, your courage, and your amazing humor. I love the humor. Laughter is the best medicine. Your story isn't just yours, it represents thousands of other women living in this exact reality. There are women out there that are going through this, right? So thank you for trusting this table with your voice. And as we close, let this episode be a reminder caring for others doesn't mean losing yourself. Your 50s brings responsibility, but they also bring wisdom, clarity, and a deeper kind of strength. And to every woman listening, your story still matters, your dreams still matter, and it's never, never too late to ask, "What about me?" So thank you for joining Who's Sitting at Your Table. Make sure to like, share, and follow Who's Sitting at Your Table. You can find us on Spotify, YouTube, Apple, or Amazon, and all the podcast platforms if you want to listen. And you can find everything, including our social media, on our link tree that we post on our Instagram, our YouTube. It's on all our platforms: YouTube, X, even TikTok. Believe it or not, because we're creating more stories. And what I'd love to do with you two queens is let's do something 6 months from now. We're gonna round table, and then we're gonna revisit in 6 months and do another podcast. Do you take on that challenge?
I'm down. I'm
Awesome.
totally in.
All right, ladies. Well,
Thank you.
thank you for joining the table, everybody. Until next
Th-
time, bye
Thanks.
bye.
Bye.